Before we begin, I want to give a huge thank you to YTNat, Lufu, and the Bones5 for creating the guides I used to complete the max mode and to make this video. I would also like to say I take the piss out of developers a lot here, and even with my disdain towards the current version, I would like to give a thank you to Emil Mako, Nephrite, Mr. Manatee, and Sunken Studios for actually creating the game. My disdain does not equate to hate. On July 18th, 2015, developer Emil Ace Mako published a FNAF fan game called Five Nights at Candy's, and it took the internet by storm. People were itching for new FNAF content since the second game dropped, so they went to fan games, the most popular being the one mentioned. While acclaimed by every big YouTuber at the time, Candy's gameplay truly just falls short, and even nowadays, popular YouTubers have expressed their apathy toward the game, and there was a group of developers who aimed to fix it, and thus, Five Nights at Candy's But Better was born. Since this is a max mode video, there is a criteria to be followed, so I'll talk about how the game works before we get into the suffering part of the video. If you're clicking on a Five Nights at Candy's But Better video, you probably already know how the game works, but if you only know about the original Candy's game, there are some changes to the general mechanics of this game. If you already know this information or don't care, which is completely valid, skip to the timestamp on screen where I actually talk about the mechanics of the animatronics. I would also like to mention that everything in this video will only be true for version 2.2.1 of Five Nights at Candy's But Better, since the most recent version is actually god-awful, and fans have taken to calling it Five Nights at Candy's But Terrible. The first mechanic to mention is probably the most important part, the doors. In the base game of Candy's, doors drain power exponentially. While a neat concept, it's incredibly exploitable in the game, so Candy's But Better changes them to act more like Five Nights at Freddy's 1, where they drain power in a linear fashion. They first take a flat 0.5% power every time they're closed, and then another 0.5% every second. To my knowledge, the cameras have not changed at all, but if you don't know how they work, you have to double-click a camera to use the night vision so you can actually see what's going on. However, some animatronics have glowing eyes that you can see regardless if the camera is on or off, while others do not. Finally is everyone's favorite overtalked topic, movement opportunities. Celebrate everyone. For the sake of ease, I'll refer to them as MOs. MOs have two parts, the interval and what I like to call the dice roll. An interval is a set amount of time and the dice roll is an AI out of whatever the game decides chance. So for Five Nights at Freddy's 2, on night 6, Toy Bonnie has an AI of 5, meaning a 5 out of 20 chance to progress to the next camera on every 5-second interval, which is about a 1/4 chance every 5 seconds. I would like to mention that FNAC But Better doesn't run on intervals, as the characters all have their own movement timer, which simply means they moved after a set amount of time. Which you may think that doesn't change much, but you'd be surprised at how often animatronics will get desynced from the cycle. i.e., if Candy gets to a door at 15 seconds, and you block him at 18 seconds, he'll be desynced for 3 seconds from every 5-second interval, unless you block him at the next 5-second interval he appears. And one last thing before getting into the mechanics of the game is blocking. Sometimes while trying to move, an animatronic's path can be blocked, and it will cause them to be stalled until the camera is freed up, and in some cases, reset. For example, say Cindy is on camera 02, and Rat wants to progress to camera 02. Rat will be sent back to the hidden storage room on his next opportunity if Cindy is still in cam 02. Finally, the actual animatronics. I'll talk about them from easiest to hardest, at least in my opinion. And a quick reminder, this is for version 2.2.1, as the most updated version is not at all fun in my opinion, and adds a lot of RNG into an already skill-based mech. First off is my goat, the Penguin.
Can I take your order?
He'll progress to your right door on a 5-second timer. He'll stay at your door for about 6 seconds, where if he is not blocked, he'll enter your office. And after every 10 seconds since he has entered, he'll close a random door. He cannot open any doors that are already closed. Just open the door he closed and you should be more than fine. Next is Candy. After 5 seconds, he will progress from the stage to cam 02, where he'll make a choice. Go to cam 09 and progress to your left door, or go to cam 03 and progress to your right door. The latter is faster by 5 seconds, but don't worry, as he cannot go to the same door twice in a row. so he will have to alternate between sides. Every time he's blocked by the door, he'll leave immediately. This also applies to Penguin and the rat. So in normal mode, Candy is the easiest animatronic to deal with that can kill you at least. We already said that Penguin is the easiest elsewhere. Almost identical to Candy is Rat. The only difference is his eyes do not glow. Yes, that's it on Rat. He's literally identical to Candy, but his eyes don't glow. The most important character, however, is Chester. On 20 AI, he will have a movement timer of 50 seconds, and if he gets to your door, he will never leave. To prevent him from getting there, you must watch him on the cameras as his timer will be paused when you watch him. He has 3 cameras of watch time, which is about 150 seconds or 2.5 minutes. Meaning you only realistically have 3.5 minutes of the night to not watch him before you effectively game over. You can argue that Chester is the easiest to deal with as you only need to look at him, but the entire night warps around his mechanic, which is why I'd say he's ranked as high as he is. Next is the timer, I mean Blank. Blank will progress a stage every 8 seconds, and every 24 seconds, he will make a mad dash to your window. He works like Foxy, but, smart, because he won't hit the window if it's closed as he gets there. Instead, you need to catch him in the act and react to him, almost like a parry mechanic. If you just close the door before he arrives and don't catch him in the act, he'll smash your window the frame it gets opened again, and also look at you like a dumbass. Thankfully, Blank has a 4-second grace period on normal mode. Unfortunately, Blank does get desynced from his 24-second intervals as the night goes on, so you can't just count to 24 every time he leaves. You'll have to use the dreaded timer. Ooh, how scary. I'm sure some developers would find this video horrifying because I used a timer. Anyway, you'll have to memorize these times right here. I know, it looks scary, but there are 2 ways to keep them in mind. 1, you can just memorize the times. I don't know why you'd ever want to do this, but you can. Or you can list them out on either a sticky note, Livesplit's title, or by using Fnaftimer. I'll link all of these in the description. Now we get into the problem children. The lesser of 2 evils is Cindy. Her stage leave timer is random from 25 to 30 seconds. So after clearing her, keep in mind when the next 25 to 30 second interval is. After she leaves, her movement timer is 4 whole seconds, which is faster than the rest of the animatronics. And unlike Candy, Rat, and Penguin, she will not be sent back on failed movement opportunities. Instead, she'll just patiently wait her turn. To send her back to the stage, you need to watch her for 1 full second on the cameras. If you fail to catch her, she'll wait at your right door for 10 whole seconds. Jesus fucking Christ. Rat and Candy can't attack until 6 seconds after being at a door, so Cindy should be your utmost priority anytime she leaves the stage. Finally is my biggest hater of normal mode, Old Candy.
Can I take your order?
No, that's it. That's 5 seconds, by the way. Or 10 seconds. He follows the same path as Chester on a 5-second timer, but before he can progress through the building, he has 15 seconds of wait time before leaving parts and service. While Chester requires you to watch him to stall him, Old Candy will punish you for looking at him. The amount of time you watch him will equate to the amount of time he stays at the door. So if you watch him on Camo 2 for 2 seconds, and then Camo 7 for 3 seconds, he will stay at your door for 5 whole seconds after the door is shut. And I do mean specifically after the door is shut. You can't wait his timer out and shut the door for less time to cheese him. Trust me, I've tried. The only reason I don't have footage for it is because I deleted it because it was way too embarrassing. On the bright side, he makes a very loud and noticeable humming sound when he's at your left door. Meaning that even if you never see him throughout your night, you will always know exactly when he's attacking. This humming can also be a good alarm for Cindy, as Old Candy takes priority over all the animatronics except for Candy, and will be at your door after 30 seconds every time. Thankfully, his door timer resets after he bangs on the door. God, imagine how hard he would be if the timer never reset.
Foreshadowing is a narrative device.
Now, after that difficult max mode, that I lost the footage for. It corrupted, so, you know, you're just gonna have to trust me that I beat normal 720. You may think, wow, Vivi, 720 is really hard. I'm sure glad that there's no secret hard mode challenge that makes the mode extremely difficult and a new top 1 max mode for you, right? Shut the fuck up. Let's stop doing the feigning ignorance cliche about a harder max mode. I did this before in the FNAF 2 video, and I'd rather not exhaust the bit. And besides, if you clicked on an FNAC But Better video, you already know about Blood 720. Mike, play the montage. Blood 720, I'd argue, is less about making the game harder and much more about giving you less mistake allowance. There's no base challenges in Blood 720, but rather each character gets a buff. So I'll go over them in the same order as previously, and then I'll re-rank them based on difficulty. Penguin's buff is almost negligible. Instead of progressing to your office, he's clocked in for overtime and will now start in your office, which almost makes his intervals easier, as every 10-second interval he'll shut a random door. And in some cases, this is more helpful. For instance, if he say closes the window at the 140 blank attack, which I consider one of the harder ones, or the left door on Old Candy as you're searching for Cindy. Next is probably my actual biggest hater, more than Balloon Boy, more than Toy Bonnie, and I'd argue more than Old Candy. Normal Candy. Fuck you, Candy. Candy's buff is actually almost nothing. He can just go to your window now and doesn't have the glowing eye. But let me tell you how annoying that window attack is. If Candy's attack overlaps with a blank interval, well, tough fucking luck. Oh, Candy. You'll close the window, and as soon as you open it, Blank will plow through your window like an old man who didn't get his In-N-Out burger after church. The next buff is for Rat, and he actually didn't get much either. He went to the Saffron City gym from Kanto and learned some telekinesis because now he attacks from one camera before the door. So Cam 7 should be treated like Cam 6, and Cam 3 should be treated like Cam 4. This isn't that big of a buff because if you get lucky, you can clear Candy and Rat at the same time, which you'll hear a louder bonk when this happens, which means you'll get a guaranteed 10 seconds without Candy and his pet mouse. Chester basically has a no buff at all. If he makes it to your door, you power out, which you weren't letting him near the door anyway, so I don't know, Chief, this is kind of a nothing burger. Cindy, however, gets a something burger. If she makes it to your door, she will sit her ass down and stay there, which, if I'm honest, on normal 720 runs, I would reset if she got to the door anyway because of power, so it didn't really affect me that much, but hey-ho. Finally, our good friend Foreshadowing, I mean Old Candy, god damn it. Old Candy's timer now does not reset. Foreshadowing is a narrative device, so if you watch him for 3 seconds at 1 AM, 2 seconds at 2 AM, and 3 seconds at 4 AM, he will wait at your door for a whopping 8 fucking seconds. I actually didn't have too much trouble with him, but on average runs, you'll have him waiting for 4 to 5 seconds at the door every time, which will cause power out deaths. And I mean a lot of power out deaths. Speaking of power outs, they last for a guaranteed exactly 25 seconds. So if you force a power out at 5 minutes and 35 seconds, this is a victory. You have won. Which is why I'm a big fan of it, because it means less work for me to do. Now, with all of these buffs, you may be wondering, Vivi, why would you put yourself through this? And the answer is, Clow, obviously, I hate these games. I'm joking. The answer is because it's fun. You may see later that I, crash out a few times, but at the end of the day, the skill expression is something I'm a huge fan of. I will say, although it's considered easier than -7, I found it a lot harder, as it's a completely different skill set. -7 is about specifically being fast and aiming, while Blood 720 is all about memorizing a pile of horseshit. If this mode was RNG based and less user-friendly, I think it would actually be less enjoyable. but that would never happen, right? That would never happen. God, that would that would never happen. My disdain towards the developers aside, I do adore FNAC But Better. on version 2.2.1. And yes, even through my crash outs, I had a lot of fun. But that doesn't make interesting content. You want a fail compilation. Oh, you don't. Ugh. Well, I didn't gather 20 hours of footage for nothing. And besides, since when were you in control?
Can I take your order?
You know, let's turn on remastered. See if that any better.
What the fuck are you looking for? There's no pot of gold down there. Are you adjusting the seat, really? That's been your fucking problem the whole time, the seat height. So now you have...
Fuck this game.
Can I take your order?
Candy the cat, my biggest op. See, that's the real secret. Candy is more difficult than Cindy and Old Candy.
Can I take? Can I take your order?
That was almost a generational fumble.
Can I take your order?
Talk about a generational fumble. Jesus Christ. Now, no good max mode comes without struggle. And good lord, I was struggling. I spent an entire 2 weeks playing this game to no avail, and it was so draining, dude. The biggest issue I'd face would be blank blocks and missing Cindy. Candy may be the channel's new biggest hater. Get out of the way, Balloon Boy, you ain't nothing. Listen, I don't get mad at games often, but this one had me yelling a few times, which I'm embarrassed to admit. However, most of it wasn't actually anger, it was stress culminating into me being unable to control my emotions and having emotional outbursts after losses. After a while of grinding this mode, deaths started to blur together, and I even tried doing things that I had no idea whether or not they would work, like changing the aspect ratio by pressing F4, or changing between remastered and classic graphics, both of which actually have advantages and disadvantages. Classic mode has easier to press buttons, but Rat was so difficult to see, especially on the far right camera, and remaster mode specifically has the window button a lot harder to press, as I would sometimes overshoot it and click the cameras and get a new blank death. Yay! However, the cameras were 1,000 times more clear and easy to view things on, so I went with the remastered version for the most part. Like I said, I have never crashed out harder at a video game, as seen with the Rage compilation, but frankly, I had a lot of fun with this max mode. I know it doesn't seem it, but it's so beautifully designed with all the moving parts. Anyway, I kept you waiting long enough. It took me way too long, but here's my completion of Blood 720.
Let's go.
order? Can I take your order? Can I take your order? Can I take your order?
Oh, baby! Rio! Wow! Oh! Oh! Oh, that was so hard! Oh my god. Oh, that was so hard. This footage better be fucking perfect, dude. Oh my god. Thank you so much for your patience. I expected this to come out a week after that FNAF 2 video, but whoops. This challenge, while being fun, was so fucking difficult. Also, can I just say that the UML feels wrong sometimes? It ranks -7 over Blood 720, and after beating both, that cannot be further from the truth, man. And I know I would said my next thing after this would be the FNAF block. That's actually not the only thing I'm going to be doing. I won't say much, as I don't have a plan, but while I'm grinding the FNAF block, I may do some more fun challenges, or maybe even another guide. Also, I'm not doing 720 2.5.1. Fuck you, Manatee. Anyway, I don't do outros. See ya.